Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you have joined me today. And it's a beautiful day. It's cold, but look at the beautiful sunshine behind me. Oh my, it is so lovely indeed. Well, if you haven't gotten your tea yet, please pause, get your tea, and I will be waiting for you. We're listening to the beautiful Franz Joseph Haydn's oratorio entitled The Creation. And it's so beautiful. And he wrote this after hearing Handel's Messiah, the oratorio, and he was so inspired, he thought, I need to write an oratorio. He had written hundreds of symphonies and cantatas, and he had written, operas and sonatas and concertos and so many string quartets. He had just he was very, very prolific composer, Austrian, and a contemporary with Mozart. Though he was 24 years older than Mozart, they were very close personal friends and inspired one another. He often went to Mozart's apartment in Vienna, and they would play quartet music, and he played violin and Mozart played viola, and they had other friends that would join them, and that was their fun and their entertainment because they inspired one another. And this is another example how nothing is born in a vacuum. And I'm playing if you haven't heard his oratorio, The Creation, so beautiful. It starts with all of the mystery of the murkiness before God says, let there be light. And the music depicts that. And we're partially, maybe a third of the way through with these chorales, and he talks about Adam in the garden and Eve, and he was also inspired by the famous book Paradise Lost, which of course was written by John Milton, and that was 100 years before. John Milton wrote in the 1600s, and he was very inspired by that book, and then also by all the paintings of Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel of creation. And these are all biblical themes that inspire. Franz Joseph Haydn was a deeply spiritual man, and it is said that in all of his music, he would write at the bottom, at the end of every piece, Laus Deo. That's Laus Deo, D-E-O, in Latin, which means, in English, praise be to God. So that reminds us of Johann Sebastian Bach, who did the same. But the man I want to talk about along with Haydn is a more obscure character, but what an important influence. And his name is Baron Gottfried von Swieten. He was the head librarian at the Austrian Imperial Library. He was a patron of Mozart and Beethoven, and a patron for the children that watch the Tea Talk. It means he sponsored them, he helped them, he backed them financially and with advertisement and introductions. He also was a champion of the early composers, Johann Sebastian Bach and George Friedrich Handel. He didn't want people to forget them. So he is a very important person. Well, he was also a patron to Franz Joseph Haydn. And he was so intrigued by Haydn's composition of the Creation that he helped him immensely in the lyric quality and the formation of this fabulous piece. And it is so interesting. There is always another piece to the puzzle. And I was thinking, studying history, church history, music history, the history of the Bible, there are always pieces and people that we rediscover, and then we discover new people. And it's like making a puzzle, and it makes the puzzle fit together. It's so fun. I love it. It is, to me, one of the greatest joys of my life to find out another jewel and find another person in history who contributed so importantly to the good of mankind. And it inspires us to, perhaps we cannot be a benefactor or a patron, but we can encourage each other, can't we? And as we spoke before, you generally find this greatness coming out of people always are surrounded by mentors, and then they take that baton and pass it. It's interesting because Haydn really helped Mozart, actually. And also, Johann Sebastian Bach had a son. Well, he had 18 children, remember, and 9 of them lived, and several of them became very significant composers. And one of them was Johann Christian Bach, who went to England and lived in England. And when Mozart traveled to England, he met Johann Christian Bach, and Johann Christian gave him many ideas for his composition. So nothing is born in a vacuum. And I think the greatness of life is adaptation and taking the new, the old, and then the fresh, and combining it, and then your own heart and your own inspiration. You know, whether you're decorating your house, perhaps you have a modern piece and an antique. It's fine. It's eclectic. Have a combination. It makes life more interesting if it's tastefully done. Well, I also felt, I'll tell you why I discovered this. Because I teach at a seminary, and this next semester, I have been asked to teach the history of worship from Adam to today. Actually, the history of music and worship. And I call it Israel's Song from Adam to today. And so it's so broad, and yet it can be understood if we look at it, take a bird's eye view and a highlight view, and we think about the great songs. The first song in the Bible is the Song of Moses when they crossed the Red Sea, and then Miriam joins in a refrain with the women with the timbrels and the dancing. Then we, of course, have the judge Deborah. She bursts out when they have a victory in battle. She bursts out in a song. Then we have beautiful Hannah, the mother of Samuel. So sad she couldn't conceive a child. Went to the temple and prayed. And Eli the priest, he said, "You will have a child." And she sings forth a worship. Very similar to, in the New Testament, Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist, she sings forth. And then Mary, of course, the Magnificat, sings. And then Simeon, he sings in the temple. And then, of course, in the book of Revelation, we have the Song of the Lamb. And of course, in the Gospels, we have, I'm sorry, not the Gospels, in the epistles, we have Paul and Silas singing in prison. So much music. And yet, song is even bigger than what we think. Because when John Milton wrote that famous book, Paradise Lost, it's a poem. It's this long epilogue, and it is a poem. Just like Homer, when he wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, it's a poem. Deuteronomy is actually a poem. It doesn't rhyme in English, but it has a quality of lyric poetry. And poetry is the foundation of all learning, all through history. It's not just a little rhyming poem that we think, but the actual lyricist, and it's the song that you have the romantic poets, Byron and Keats and Shelley. These are songs, maybe not formally put to music, but they're a song. And that is what I'm talking about. The wonderful beauty of poetry and song. And someone like Franz Joseph Haydn, he comes through, but he didn't just come overnight. He's coming through Bach and through, I said, he was inspired by Handel. And then you have this group, Beethoven and Mozart and Haydn and the Austrian school. And then you have the Franz Liszt and Schubert and Schumann. Each one passes to the next one. And yet, the root of their inspiration is interesting because it's so spiritual. Mozart is so spiritual. His last piece, his Requiem, we just attended that within the last year, my husband and I, in person, which is so deep and meaningful. The Mozart Requiem will take you to another level of understanding. It is all his prayer to God and going to heaven. He actually didn't finish it. He passed away, but it is still performed, and it is so beautiful. And for someone like Franz Joseph Haydn to leave the creation in an oratorio, this is our rich heritage. I'm really excited about teaching this. I wrote a paper once when I was an undergraduate, and I called it Israel's Song. And I went through the history of starting with, there is the first mention of a musical instrument in the Bible. It says Jubal played the organ, and it's in Genesis, and he was the maker of instruments. Well, when they say played the organ, that is a wind instrument, and so that's like a bagpipe. Did you know that the organ we have today, the pipe organ, is really a bagpipe in a box? And the beautiful pianos we have are really harps in a box. If you open a piano, it's a harp. Isn't that interesting? Music is so important. And I thought for the new year, this is really, I'm excited to do more research and discover more jewels and more people that have contributed. And the great artist, you know, the Sistine Chapel painted by Leonardo da Vinci, and his fabulous painting of the creation was also part of the inspiration of Franz Joseph Haydn. He was so moved by that art. And when you look at the great art of the world and passing down from the early church through the Middle Ages, and then of course Renaissance, everything bursts forth. It's all religious art. It's all biblical art. And so much of this music is biblically based, and Bach giving glory to God. It is so full circle because truly man was created in the image of God to commune with God. That's what we call worship. It's relationship. It's an expression of we receive his love and then we give our love back. Isn't that beautiful? And there are so many different types of worship and praise. Painting a picture is worship. And I just wanted to share with all of you something so beautiful. I was reading in my daily light this morning, and the first verse is, it says, O God in Zion, we wait before you in silent praise. Whoa, there's such a thing as silent praise, where you just are sitting, meditating, thinking of God, thinking of life, and that's called silent praise. Then there's verbal praise. Then there's singing praise. If you go to church and you see a hymn book, usually there are 500 or 700 songs in an average church hymn book. And there's hundreds of different hymn books from all different denominations. Now, these songs have been collected through the years. No one told these people to write a song. A song bursts out of the heart. It's generally a gratefulness, a thanking God, a reflection of beauty, a reiteration of a theological truth that is then sung, or scripture, like the Lord is my shepherd. It's a famous Psalm 23, has been put to music by many people. And it's beautiful to sing. It's very assuring. It's a statement, the Lord is my shepherd. Well, if you haven't gotten your tea yet, please pause and get your tea, and I'll be waiting for you. I have a beautiful tea set today, and the pot is French Limoges, and it's actually a vintage cocoa pot. Turn of the century, chocolate became very popular, and they started drinking hot chocolate all through Europe. And this shape of a pot, if you see one, is really a cocoa pot. And then I have special cups, one for you and one for me. And I have some homemade oatmeal cookies and a lovely Austrian creamer. The cups are Austrian china. And the French Limoges is very fragile and beautiful, but the Austrian has its own special feeling. And I'm going to give you this very special cup. See, it is I call it French green, and then it has the magenta flowers on it. And I am going to try to pour with my left hand this lovely tea. Whoops, this is such a big pot and such a small cup. Okay, and let's have a little splash of milk. I'm wearing fur today because I'm cold. Okay. Oh my goodness, that is so delicious. Oh my. That is fabulous. this is I should be left-handed because this is the side that really has the pretty flower. Isn't that interesting? So for all the lefties, this cup is for you. But actually, this was the little cup that I really wanted to show you. It's a little flower. Isn't it the absolute sweetest cup? And it has gold. Ugh, it's just so fine. A work of art. And then on the tea tray, I put a pink rose and a pink napkin today. I thought we really needed softer colors after all the red, green Christmas colors that, oh my, I'm losing my fur. I've got to put it back on though. You wouldn't believe the difference it makes just having this little fur around me. Oh my, and I've got my stove going. I've got my fireplace going. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful day we have. I am so thankful. I just absolutely am embracing my study, and I love doing church history in the fall, and now to do this is going to be just perfect. And if I find some special jewels along the way, I'll share them with you. And it's a nice approach. One thing that I will go through with you at some point is when you read the book of Psalms, which is kind of considered the songbook of the Bible, there will be titles above each of the Psalms. And those are musical titles. One of them is Shiganon. And Shiganon means dancing free and happy with tambourines and like folk dances all around together, happy joy. And then there'll be Neganoth. And then there's one means to a lute softly play or a flute softly play. I will go through that with you. It's quite fascinating, the variety of music and musical notes. When it says Sila, that means pause and think about what you have just sung and rest. Isn't that interesting? So this will be a wonderful year. I'm excited about it. And I will show you my little homemade oatmeal cookies. I made them just for you. And they are very healthy. I'm going to send them to my grandkids. They have oatmeal, coconut, chocolate, nuts, and they're brown sugar. Very, very healthy. I just thought I needed to bake something fresh. It's nice to have homemade, isn't it? My daughter-in-law brought us a loaf of homemade banana bread. She had taken home some bananas from me that were a little bit gone. She said, I'll do something with them. And she did. And she brought them back in the form of a banana bread. Very lovely. I mean, it turned out perfect. And I said to her, you know, homemade is the best. It is the best. So for the new year, when we can, let's bake for the members of our families and be an inspiration. And I hope you've enjoyed my little talk about Franz Joseph Haydn. They called him Papa Haydn because he grew very old. He lived a long, wonderful life and gave the world so much beautiful music, and particularly orchestra music. The symphonies that he wrote, he's known for. Well, I think we're going to go now, and I thank you so much for joining me. And if you haven't subscribed to the Tea Talk channel, please subscribe. Please share with a friend. And if you liked it, the like button is great. I love your comments. Thank you for your comments. And if you have questions or something you would like me to cover, please feel free to put it in the comment box, and we'll try to cover it if we can. And push the notification bell and you'll be notified. Okay? Well, have a fabulous, I mean the best, beautiful January you can have, and make your list. It's a new beginning, it's a new year, and it's going to be a great year. 2024 is going to be a fabulous year. And I pray God's blessings on all of you on the tea table. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you next time. God bless.